Good afternoon. My name is Thomas Gaetkens, and I'm the director of the Getty Research Institute. And I want to thank you for coming this afternoon for this very, very special event. It is my great honor today to present Agnès Varda. An artist whose work consistently tests the boundaries of cinema, photography, documentary, and installation. Her range, intellect, innovation, and subject matter we can all draw inspiration from. This conversation is presented concurrently with Agnès Varda in California Land, an exhibition on display at the Los Angeles County Museum of Art opened, I think, yesterday. A full selection of her films will accompany the exhibition. We are proud and honored to share Agnès Varda with the Getty Research Institute, and she is here today. Her exhibition at LACMA, a film cabana made out of an old film print, photographs, and other materials constructed for the galleries demonstrate the astonishing possibilities of combining film and the fine arts, a relationship the Getty Research Institute is committed to explore. Works of art have always played a major role in her work, not only films as work of art, but paintings, sculptures, architecture, and whatever. It is now my great pleasure to introduce my colleague, Rani Singh, who will lead us through this afternoon. Please join me in welcoming Agnès Varda and Rani, who is responsible for our program Art on Screen at the Getty Research Institute. And we should be very thankful for her to have organized this afternoon and this outstanding event. Thank you very much. Please welcome Rani.
Thank you, Thomas. For the past 10 days, the people of Los Angeles have been lucky enough to have Agnès Varda in our midst. And as Thomas mentioned, she's here for the opening of Agnès Varda in California Land, an exhibition currently on display at the Los Angeles County Museum of Art, and to celebrate the recent restoration of 4 of her Los Angeles films. And she'll also be AFI's artistic guest director, which starts, I believe, next Sunday. The centerpiece of the exhibition at LACMA is a small shack made up of film strips located squarely in the middle of the gallery. In the spirit of exploring Varda's relationship to California, the structure is lined with a 35mm print of her counterculture film Lions, Love, and Lies, shot on location in Hollywood in 1968. Varda's wall text for the exhibition proudly notes that the film was a commercial flop, a fact likely responsible for its relative inaccessibility until a recent restoration by Martin Scorsese's Film Foundation, the Annenberg Foundation, and LACMA. Though the film's digital restoration promises to increase its availability, it also renders damaged and faded prints of the film obsolete. Ever open to change but resistant to waste, Varda recycled the aging prints, seizing the opportunity to foreground film's shape, materiality, and vulnerability to the passage of time. This inviting, interactive exhibition, and it's up until June, so I encourage everyone to go see it, asks visitors to enter the shack and sit on stacks of film cans to take in the subtle shifts of color as light passes through the individual frames. It visualizes interests that have persisted throughout Varda's experimental and deeply personal career. Nearby, a TV monitor plays clips of Lions, Love, while an enormous collage displays related memorabilia, including the cover of the first issue of Andy Warhol's Interview magazine. Another wall offers a series of photographs Varda took during 2 extended trips to California. As with so many of her works, the exhibition makes collaboration between the analog and digital, past and present, artist and visitor seem effortless and generative. With installation, Varda has discovered a new way to engage with both artistic materials and her audience. Her long-standing interests in the passage of time, function of memory, and travel are invigorated by the flexibility of gallery display. This turn in her career has brought her work to a new audience and created an entirely new generation of enthusiasts. As she says in her film, Beaches of Agnes, she's gone from being an old filmmaker to a young artist. And at 85 years of age, Varda is an inspiring and inquisitive visual artist who doesn't shy away from experimenting with formal strategies and new media. Often described as the grandmother of the French New Wave, Varda began her career as a still photographer and transitioned to moving image at the age of 25, when despite having no formal training and having only seen a handful of films, she directed her first feature film, La Pointe-Court. It's important to acknowledge that in 1954, Varda's complete creative control was groundbreaking. From start to finish, she conceived of the premise, financed the picture, directed the film, supervised post-production, and retained final cut. Called the first film of the French New Wave by historian Georges Sadoul, La Pointe-Court was edited by Alain René, who, along with Chris Marker and eventual husband Jacques Demy, was among Varda's closest colleagues. Despite the tremendous breadth and diversity of Varda's career, traces of these early films and life experiences continually reappear in her more recent projects. At the crux of her work is a fearless embrace of the contemporary, coupled with a willingness to engage with the overwhelming power of the past. Varda has declared that she inhabits cinema, an idea literalized by her recent turn towards constructing film dwellings. This desire to commit her life to art is spurred by her willingness to allow her work to capture the intimate details of human experience. Varda's personal and ultimately democratic artistic practice dismantles the distinction between fiction and nonfiction and the personal and the objective by proving that art emerges from a dialogue between maker, subject, and viewer. Varda's films and installations encourage us to let art, memory, and history permeate our daily lives and become part of the dialogue. So it's a real pleasure and honor for me to introduce Agnès Varda and join me in welcoming her to the stage. Thank you. Yes, you can. So Agnès, we have so much to cover today, and before we started, we were getting into discussion of where to begin or how to begin. But I think just to kind of set the stage for the audience, can you just tell us how you began to even envision a life in the arts, or like a bohemian existence growing up in Brussels and eventually moving to France?
Too much. You know, Rani, you spoke so well, I thought I was listening, I say, you don't need me because you spoke so well, and then you could show films and your speech, that's it.
No, but we have you. People are here to hear you speak. That was just my introduction to your conversation.
Well, beautiful words, you did it fine, you know. It's a pleasure to be here because I love the place. I remember coming here. I think the Getty, I would say, ensemble, you know, the whole architecture, the garden, the place, the democratic attitude, you know. I love the place. I feel really good to be here, to be welcomed by Thomas and by you. And I remember, because you have that image, and I remember in the film, The Gleaner, I throw this and I say, I throw it and I take a camera, because it's as filmmaker that I'm more known, if I may say so, even though I started as a photographer, then filmmaker, then visual artist. So I had 3 lives.
I always think, since you're so connected to cats, that you have 9 lives, and we're just working on 3, and you still have about 6 more.
They have.
But
some
before
cats
you even became,
have only 7.
But before you were a still photographer, you actually studied art history.
I studied at l'École du Louvre, which is, but I was not in the daytime. I was like auditeur. It's called like exterior, I don't know. I followed the courses for 3 years, but never really wanted to become a curator, even though I respect all curators in the world, but I wanted to learn to look at things, look at paintings, just learn to look, because we learn a lot from the painting, including to work on cinema. I remember looking at Degas' painting, let's say, and some Degas' painting I heard, they have a strange way to have something just at the edge, out of, or coming in, not totally in the, it was so daring the way it was framed. I thought, all the school of cinema should go and see some Degas, because it helps to know that artists have been looking for the shape of everything. About the shape, most of the time when I go to places, we try to show first a short I made called Uncle Yanko. I was here in the San Francisco Film Festival, and Tom Loddy told me there is a man called Yanko who lives on a boat. His name is Varda. Could it be your family? So we went to see him. I had read about him, and Henry Miller spoke about him. And so he took me in Sausalito to meet Yanko Varda. And the minute we met, we understood we were family. He's really the cousin of my father. He became in a minute my real root, my real Greek root. And I thought, I loved him. He said, I was sure you were my family because I saw Le Bonheur. You love color so much, so do I, etc. So we fall in love in a minute. And I said, I should do something about that man because I'm leaving San Francisco in 4 days. So I asked Bob Greensfelder, David Meyer, every day, in a minute they found camera, 35 millimeter, and I shot the film in 3 days, 4 days, then left for Paris. And when I think it is the thing that introduces me the best, because he make a genealogical tree. This is
right, the genealogical tree.
And that this is your father with a brother, this is you. And I said, well, for the first time somebody tells me from where we're coming. So I made the film. But I understand that that's why I wanted to show that clip, that it's not enough to say, I want to say something about myself or share it with people. It's how you make it. So my part as a filmmaker is that the encounter with Yanko tells very clearly that you take reality and you do something with it. That's the way I felt. So it's a very little clip.
Let's start with
how I met Yanko.
Okay, so let's start with the Uncle Yanko clip.
Please.
And we can watch right there in front of us.
I think I know it.
I delegated my friend Tom to get information and introduce me, without knowing what kind of fish I might find. Imaginary families, I love you. I dedicate to you the sketch which will follow. We will play for you the avuncular recognition, or how Uncle Yanko acknowledged his niece and niece.
Varda! Varda!
Monsieur Varda?
Oui.
I'm bringing someone who would like to meet you. It's Agnès Varda.
Agnès?
Yes.
Agnès, is she the daughter of Eugène?
Je ne sais pas.
Vous êtes la fille d'Eugène Varda?
Oui, c'est moi.
You are the daughter of Eugène Varda?
Yes, yeah.
Is he married to Eugène Varda?
Scene C8, take 2.
Is he married to Varda? To Eugène?
Oui.
Sound.
Vous êtes la fille.
Scene
Vous êtes
C8.
the daughter of Eugène Varda?
Coupe. Scene C12.
Et moi, je me suis souvent demandé, quand j'ai lu le livre de Miller,
La même chose avec... Je voudrais que tu sois un peu juste gâté. Alors, tu es ma nièce. Tu es
Bon, oui, on dirait.
Mais oui.
Bon, coupe.
So, yeah, you don't blow That's what I was saying. It's like a game, it's like an editing game, it's like enjoying the thing and finding a shape to tell my surprise, enjoyment, and reality of discovering that uncle. But you had in mind to start with something else.
No. But also that film, that was during the time that you first came to Los Angeles?
Yes.
The first trip, and it was Tom Luddy who introduced you. In a way, you started to connect and make connections with California.
It's even the first film I made in California.
Uncle Yanko.
Yeah.
And that was also one of the films that's been preserved as part of this 4-film series.
Yes. Thank you to all the sponsors.
Yeah, it's fantastic. And during the preservation process and the restoration, are you restoring back to, I'm curious about, do you restore back to film or is it the digital?
Well, if you want to go that, I can speak for 2 hours, but
I just want a short.
We start from the real negative, whatever is the state, and it is scanned in 4K. Then they have an element that can be treated. They can clean, all the little things, the threads, the things, sometimes even some assistant who left a little hair somewhere. And then,
all the dirt.
Well, it happens. And then we do the color grading again. Because what we have done before for films or DVD or TV cannot be used. So we have to redo frame by frame, sequence by sequence, the color grading. And then they do something which become JPEG de mille. It's complicated to explain, but it ends up that instead of bringing reels of cans, reel in a booth, like 10 reels to make a film, you end up with a file like this, big like this,
with
which is called
DCP,
right. Digital package, camera package, and that it's more easy. And in France, in the booth, they no longer want prints; they want this. So because you bring this, they put it in the computer, and it goes on screen. So they save money because one man can do, 7 screens.
Of course.
In these multiplex things. So
but I think that it's important to acknowledge that over the years that you and Rosalie and your whole team have really been actively engaged in restoring so many of your films, Jacques Demy's films, making them available, putting beautiful special extras, the Criterion package with 4 of your master films and lots of bonus features. Not many filmmakers really put so much attention and detail.
It's our interest, I would say, about the DCP sequence. If we don't do it, little by little, there will be no place that you can screen 35 millimeters, maybe in museums, some cinematheque, but in general, if we don't do the DCP, the film before 2000 will little by little disappear, so we are very selfish to do it.
Well, we all, as the audience and the lovers of cinema, thank you for that. And I did want to start talking about some of your early interests in working in still photography, and maybe we could show the Versailles documentary, because I find it so amazing that not only did you do portraits of so many artists when you were just starting out, but that you actually documented the making of.
But the piece, are you speaking the piece in 16 millimeter speedy?
Yes.
Well, we found that in INA, which is a collective. I don't know who and why I was filmed in 1954 when I was trying to make a portrait of Brassai, who was my neighbor. And I asked Brassai, I said, could we meet in the street? I take a picture of you. Because he had done graffiti, a book, a photo that was so famous. So I don't know who did it. We found it. You want to show a piece?
I would love to show that. So you really don't know who?
I don't know, but I look like a. Let's see, because I look like a. I don't know. I look like.
It's like a Buster Keaton.
It's like the century before.
Yeah, let's show that, and then we can continue the conversation.
I don't know who did. Beside the 2 or 3 recent portraits, I feel like it's another life, really. Have you seen that piece in 16 millimeter? I'm so impressed even now. But what I've noticed that I didn't want to ruin my little stool in wood and had that little piece of fabric.
Well, I mean, the portraits are especially striking, and they seem to be mostly of friends and artists and people that you knew. So did you establish a rapport with these people, or were they just mostly
I don't know.
Mostly your close
Some I
con-
knew, some I asked them. I'd spent many years to be the photographer of the Jean Villard company. We invented the Festival d'Avignon theater in the Avignon, in the Palais des Papes, and then I became their photographer when they do the Théâtre National Populaire, and that's why I was making my money working for them.
So you actually
but I kept all the idea that I should do photos for myself, like composition or, at what I thought better quality and I thought would fulfill my desire to do something else. But then I became so totally filmmaker that I stopped making photos for many, many years. I would only do like location scouting, but so beautiful things happen in my life. Incredible people I met. I didn't take pictures. For many years, I didn't do it, including when I was here. Very rare photos.
So was there a point when still photography just wasn't enough, that you had a desire to move towards more moving image?
I don't know.
How did...
I don't exactly know how it happens because I had not seen many films, maybe 10 when I was 25, and I had not gone to a school and was not an assistant. So I wrote my first film, I would say like you write something, like a poem, and you think you put it in a drawer, that's it. And a friend of mine, Carlos Villardebeau, said, why don't we try to make it? And, all together.
And that was La Pointe-Court.
It's La Pointe-Court, this is in 54.
And you used actors from the Théâtre National?
Yeah, Philippe Moiret, it was his first film. And what happened that we finished the film and all the cinemas grabbed on it and said, oh, that's new cinema. But it was a total flop. 2 years after making it, it opened for 2 weeks in a very little cinema near Montparnasse. And we had great review, but that was it. So I'm almost used to that. Some of my films are a bit legendary flops. Thanks God I had some who went through, for some reason, who did well. One of my most difficult films I would call is Vagabond. And that one was a huge success. So I don't understand exactly what happened.
Well, it seems like you don't really care, but you start off making a film and you want it to be as good as possible, but you make the film and you put it in the world, and then
well, what can you do?
Then it has its own life.
Oblige the people to come and see it, you cannot. So the thing is, it's very mysterious because, all the filmmakers know that the date comes out. I think in America it's Friday. In France it's Wednesday. The Wednesday when the film opens, how many people at 2, how many people at 4. The first day, it's like telling the career of a film. If the first day is good, you have good chances that it goes. But if the first day and first weekend is bad, forget it. It will never be and stores. I don't know.
Well, here in Los Angeles, they seem to know the numbers, the box office numbers, before it even opens. And
you are so good
they
in
make
America.
That, they make that decision beforehand. But so was your first kind of hit film, was it Gleaners and I?
No. Cleo from 5 to 7.
Okay, of course, right. So that was...
Oh, that came in the States. So came Le Bonheur, Happiness. And then much later, Vagabond as a success. And not so many success. But I think that I really tried to make films the way I felt I should do it. Like learning something each time, investigating another way of telling, having very radical choices, including in Vagabond, that I made 13 traveling tracks, what you call film.
Right, tracking shots.
Tracking shot from right to left, 13 connected, disconnected. In each film, and in Cleo that you spoke about, I was a very precise study about what is time, how you can capture time, how you capture 90 minutes. So in real time, real geography, following the person. So it's the structure of the film. Then comes the story, which is that beautiful singer is afraid to have a cancer. She has to wait for a medical
Diagnosis.
test. And wow, the hour that she waits, that we built how she feels, I don't know, she discovered herself different and weak, and she decided to go out. And all the, I would say the screenplay is included in the structure of the film.
Well, and let's talk about structure for a minute, because it seems oftentimes you prioritize structure to the narrative. I mean, all of your films really have a very definitive structural makeup.
Well, I think it's interesting because I remember when I started, I thought literature has done jumps of, since you have James Joyce, or here, those passages of Faulkner, these people have changed literature so much about how to tell a story. Painting had changed so much. And for what I do, the cinema was still illustrating stories of novels, when I thought cinema should start from nothing and have its own structure, invention, and shape. Well, that's why I was so radical, because that's the idea I had.
And so maybe we should watch, would you like to watch this clip of Cleo 5 to 7?
We have a piece here.
We do, we have a short clip.
When she takes out her wigs. Oh.
Yes.
Because I had in mind something very specific. The film is really 90 minutes. But I wanted the film to be absolutely have a switch at 45 minutes. Since in the first part, beautiful Cleo, played by Corinne Marchand, beautiful woman and good actress, she's looked at by everybody. She's in mirrors, she's admired, she's, at that point, because she's singing a song that makes her feel good, makes her feel very bad, she decided to cut the scene, change, get her wig off, and go out. And all the second part of the film, she's the one looking at people. That's a big switch between being looked at and becoming active look, discovering other people, how they make their living. A friend she meets goes around and she meets a story. So that was very important, and I think you want to show the turn. Is that a piece?
Yes, exactly, when she leaves the apartment and walks down the street.
After a song that I wrote for her, Michel Grand made the music, but she feels it is such a sad song that it makes her feel even worse than the time before that. Is that a clip?
Yeah, of course.
Oh, si tu veux.
So let's show the clip from Cleo 5 to 7.
This is really mixing, the project of Cleo with reality that she's discovering. That man, that's what he does to make money. It's disgusting. Huh?
Well, there's the frog swallower, there's that moment where really her emotional procession walking through is so broken, it's that disjuncture.
And, comment on dit la gageure? La gageure, the challenge was that I didn't want to skip anything. The language of cinema is that you are allowed to skip. I take a luggage here, and then you see me in the train. You don't need to see everything, You understand I'm traveling. Now, in that film, every step is, when she goes out, each step, and she has to cross her courtyard, and there is no ellipse of time, but no ellipse of geography. All that, I was afraid when I did that, I said, well, I will get bored, she has to do all that is, and then all the sidewalk. But that was the game, to really be with her in the real distance that she has to cover, in the real time of what it takes to go from her house to that frogman. And she had to face suddenly its exaggerated reality as she comes from singing, being a star singer, and having wonderful, touching songs, that she realized that what is a song when her life is at stake. So it's a turning point in the film. That's why I hope that's why we chose it.
But all of your films seem to capture that street life, that everyday life, storefronts, street signs, moving through cities in a way that just captures such attention to detail and really are so much of their time.
Well, because every film, including bad film, including B film, they document a time, a place, you know, but depends how you want to use it. I always use reality to, well, as it is, but to interfere with emotion, feeling. And I did it at the maximum in a film called Documentaire, an emotion picture, which just will be shown next week at the AFI. But Cleo was, I didn't think it would work well because I thought it was so radical in my reason to be exact, you know, with the time. But what was important that because of such which she was able to look at people, be different. And it was a difficult bet to be different in 1 hour and a half. That's what I wanted people to feel, that she was discovering emotion, discovering a way of sharing with that soldier. And so it would be with her, just companionship in the way that she did it so much.
And there's water here too, if you want. And when you're making films,
coughing.
Agnès, is there a distinction in your mind between a narrative and documentary?
Yes, but they are in fusion all the time.
They intermingle and...
Intermingle, oh, what a nice word. You know, I did some pure documentaries, like Daguerreotype. You are at the service of the subject. You want to show the people the way they are. It takes time to listen to them, to make them be real.
Which is your film that you made of storekeepers on your street in Paris that you had come to know for many, many years.
I remember in Albany, they study it in the social studies to learn about how real people speak. What is the language in the shops?
Their dialects.
Because it's a non-dialogue, you know, they just change trades words. So anyway, so I did another documentary that is known here called The Gleaners, Les Glaneurs et la Glaneuse. And always when you do a documentary, you want to discover the people you film, share your discovery, your experience. I allowed myself in The Gleaners to appear very little in the film, as I want to be as sincere as there are, but mostly, so that's why I show myself with the, comment on dit le blé, the wheat, but telling that I choose to film. So The Gleaner is a documentary. Now, sometimes, like Vagabond, it's the same, I would say, texture of documentary, but it's a fiction. Even when they address to the audience, it's written. So I go from one place to another. There is no border, really, but it can be a difference if you decide to make a documentary or you decide to make a fiction. But you're always intermingled.
Yeah, intermingled.
Oh.
Well, the other night you premiered the restoration of Lions, Love, and Lies, and that was your first film, your second film that you made when you were in Los Angeles, and you really get the sense of the discovery of the city. So,
well, first, the second film was Black Panthers, a real documentary about the Black Panthers. Now, Lions, Love, I wanted to express our incredible surprise when we came with Jacques Demy. We thought that French was very dull at the time. And we arrived here as Peace and Love.
So it was 1967?
Yeah. And a very different attitude, and McLuhan, you know, and also demonstration because of the Vietnam War. And also all that peace and love, incredible tenderness in gardens, huge loving, and huge Sunday picnics, I would say. Millions of
the love-ins?
Yes, being together, sharing cherries and caressing the kids and the dogs. And all these incredible groups coming to sing for free, you know, and the mamas and the papas and the strawberry butterfly, what was that? The Doors and other groups coming to sing, to be just with people. So we were very impressed because the way people behaved and the sex liberation and all that. So that I was impressed by sex and by politics, so I made that film, trying to enter in a film all this impression we had, represented by some idols of that subculture, I would say. Viva, wonderful Viva, who was the star of Andy Warhol, and very famous for that. And the two guys who had written and were acting in Hair, Jérôme Rani and Rado, Jim Rado. So I asked them to come. They were really representing something, you know, all these scenes on stage, naked and burning the draft cards and let the sun shine in and all that. So that was really, it's really something of that time. Now people smile, but it was very, very enthusiastic at that time. And also the way that men were wearing shirts with flowers and long hair. I loved that. All the men had hair until here, you know. And that was such an incredible discovery for us that the film, you know, resembled like a collage all these impressions that we discovered. And then I brought in Shirley Clark, the New York filmmaker, underground filmmaker. She had made it, the connection, or she made it at that time. And also Carlos Clarence, a friend who was an historian of cinema, and I wanted him to tell the history of Hollywood, because for us it was a myth, you know. So all this together, is that the film that we restored, and because we had that print, old print, half pink, and that's how I made a shack out of it. So the whole thing mixed, you know, that's the way I went to photo to cinema, and from cinema to visual art. Well, there is a piece maybe we could show, because it's called About Patat Utopia, because it tells how, you know, I don't make a decision on the paper. I'm not writing, saying, how could I be original, you know. It's so difficult just to sit and be in front of a white page. So it happens in the time of the shooting The Gleaner. That's how it led me to make an installation. Can we show that?
Sure.
Piece?
So essentially, it's the development from the Gleaners into more of your installation work.
Well, that's how I switched. You
Yeah.
know?
So we'll show that clip, and then we can.
You know which one is it?
It's the Patatopia clip.
It's
As long as Alison knows
à
which.
propos de Patat Utopia.
Correct. Yes.
Yes. Voici comment j'ai été amenée à filmer des patates en forme de cœur.
Les plants de pommes de terre, après le défanage, présentent des sillons et des buttes prêts pour l'arracheuse.
Dès que la machine est passée, nous pouvons après glaner. Glaner, même tout le champ.
Et là, il en reste beaucoup, là.
Les grandes surfaces demandent un gabarit bien précis, une grosseur bien précise.
Nous, on vend des pommes de terre d'une grille 45 mm à 75. Tout le reste, tout ce qui est au-dessus est automatiquement jeté.
Quand je pense à la bouffe, jeter, caché, c'était pas ouf, censé, y'a de quoi être fâché. Si demain t'es mis dehors par ta femme lâchée, en galère, ton emploi tu le perds, tu seras content de savoir où se récupère la nourriture.
Je vais apprendre un peu pour voir mes enfants.
Quand je vois tout ce gâchis là, et puis il y a des gens qui n'ont rien à manger, c'est lamentable de voir ça.
Bon, ouais, ça me sauve pour le moment. C'est dur, c'est tout. Ah, voilà, je repars avec mes 30 kilos. Et il y a encore quelques tonnes derrière moi que les gens pourraient ramasser, mais qui ne savent pas où ça se trouve.
Quelquefois, ce sont des enfants qui donnent le signal.
Tiens, Faboun, on a une grosse patate. Ouais, allez, j'essaie de la patate. Lundi, des patates. Mardi, des patates. Mercredi, des patates aussi. Jeudi, des patates. Vendredi, des patates. Samedi, des patates aussi. Dimanche, un gratin de pommes de terre.
Dans les déchets, on trouve il y en a des très grosses, hein. Vous voyez. Il y en a même qui sont difformes, forme de cœur.
Ah ben le cœur, le cœur, je le veux. Quelle surprise. J'étais contente.
je les ai aussitôt filmés de près. Puis j'en ai ramené à la maison. Je les ai regardés. J'ai attendu qu'elles vieillissent, qu'elles sèchent, qu'elles se ratatinent. Des germes et des radicelles. J'ai recommencé à les filmer et à les photographier. Ensuite, je les ai fait respirer.
Et la voilà à Venise. Car Hans Ulrich Obrist l'invite à la Biennale d'art de 2003 dans son projet Utopia Station. Chaque artiste devait créer une affiche et une œuvre. Agnès, ravie de côtoyer d'autres artistes, comme Boltanski, a créé un costume de patate, une affiche et un triptyque. Patate Utopia.
Et il fallait 700 sol au ras des écrans. C'était la première fois que j'installais 3 écrans. It's explaining that, right?
Yes.
And the switch really happened like this. If I have not found these hot-chip potatoes, it would not have happened. And the thing is, when it happened, I was doing the documentary, it was the second day or third day. When I found these hot-chip potatoes, I was impressed because I thought, okay, it's telling me what I have to do. By trying to find the gleaners, the people who eat what we throw away, the people who have to go to, after the market or in the fields to find food. By finding this potato, it said to me, oh, we have to go to the heart of the problem, how they feel, how we feel about them, and just have enough charisma to go to them with, honesty and friendship. And what was interesting is, you see in these places where they change them to make it, when he explained about the format, 3 centimeters to 7 centimeters, and they do 3 kilos in a little basket, which goes in the superstores, When he said that, I felt so strongly that's what it's all about. It's format. And the potatoes have to be formatted. So the people have to be formatted. And all the people I meet, have so many films I've made, and so many people have filmed, are out of format. And society pushes them. And because, okay, they're poor, they're dirty, they're whatever, but they're not in the format. And that made me very clearly understand that they throw them, when they could sell these huge potatoes. You can make a smashed potato puree with a big one like this. They have not organized to sell something which is not in format. Now, as for the half-chip potatoes I became like growing the aging of potatoes because, I put some in the cellar, and then other in boxes. So then the roots were folded like this. It looks like a storm, And other were outside, so they did little radicals. I don't know how to explain that. So I had so many categories of aging potatoes. I was very excited to film them and take photos. And you laugh when they say they start to breathe, but a heart is breathing. It's normal for a heart. No? Pour un cœur?
Yeah.
And when Obrist invited me, I was totally ready to do something because I wanted to use that discovery of the way I could use them. So the 3 screens made my day, And So that's the first thing I had made. I was so afraid that nobody would come to see my new. I was a new artist. I thought if I make a costume of potato, they will notice it, and they will give them the idea to see my triptych of potatoes.
Well, there's certainly a visual continuity, but when you were conceiving of the installation, how did you want to extend the film out in a different way than the actual experience of sitting in the theater?
Well, I've known the experience having a crowd like here and a flat screen. But what I really love is the idea that we can find new ways of touching people, new approaches. All these installations in the last 30 years, 40 years, I mean 20 years mostly, propose something different, or many screens, or another approach, or different sounds. Or, I remember I made something that you have seen, maybe The Widows of Noirmoutier. I'm in the island of Noirmoutier. I go there a lot. And for some reason, there are more widows there than any place else. So I started to speak to them and to start to film them, because I had in mind an installation in which I wanted to put together, as you would say, the collective and the private, the cinema and the video. So I filmed them one-to-one, sometimes almost alone, because I had learned, at the time of the Gleaners, I learned to use this the little camera, video camera.
That was your first feature, shooting a digital...
Well, I needed it in the Gleaners to approach people who are in a precarity, is that a word?
Like a precarious situation.
Yeah, you cannot approach with, a big material. So I thought that one person, two person would do better. Same thing for the widows. Well, they knew I was widow. The family stays in the Ile of Noirmoutier very often, so they were confident they could speak to me.
In an open manner.
Yes, as much as they wish I could. And so I spoke to one after another. But I had in mind to do an installation in which we would find that confidence feeling that they speak to one person, not to a crowd. So it is explained that I made an installation that I would, well, can we show the little piece?
Yeah.
Has somebody seen the Widows of Noirmoutier ever? No, it's a surprise for you then.
But it's interesting to note that you really, we'll watch this.
Huh?
Exposé à la galerie à Boucaïa, à Nantes, à Gand, puis à la Fondation Cartier, les Veuves de Noirmoutier. Agnès Varda y est cinéaste, vidéaste et installe des émotions en un espace intime et collectif à la fois. L'image centrale est un film en 35 mm. Éric Gauthier, à la caméra, a cadré le cortège des veuves au son du violon d'Amy Flamère et de la mer calme. Tout autour, sur 14 écrans, des dames de l'île, toutes veuves, qu'Agnès a filmées en tête-à-tête. Elles sont muettes, mais on peut les entendre. Chaque chaise avec des écouteurs correspond à une veuve. Chaque visiteur peut l'entendre.
J'entends quelquefois des gens qui disent qu'ils parlent à leur mort et qu'ils leur répondent non, moi, non, pas ça. Non.
Ça fait 13 ans qu'il est parti, mais je peux vous dire que, comme je leur dis, c'est comme si c'était hier. Hein. Surtout le soir.
Le manque, c'est le manque de toucher, c'est le manque... Pour l'instant, si tu veux, la maison est encore pleine de la présence de Thierry, de son odeur, de ses... On a mangé il y a 2 jours des haricots verts qu'il avait achetés au marché. C'est encore tout récent, quoi.
It's interesting, the choice of telling the personal stories that people can listen to it with headphones, and then also you have the audio track. There's both this really intimate feeling and then a public.
That's why it's something I experimented and loved very much, because it's different what I did before. But again, you have 14 people listening and other people standing to wait for the chair to be free. So this is not a crowd like a film that does, 100,000 or 2,000. It's maybe less people have been, but the experience that they have, that I had by doing the film, and that every visitor has, and takes one headphone, and then has to change chair and you look, because the headphone of first row are the first row of women, then it's made in a way that you understand which one you want to listen. So you get the chair. And here, so it's really, you are really alone with that person that speaks. And meanwhile, you see the cortege in the middle. Again, after having done all these films with each of the women, I asked them to come a Sunday afternoon. I said, I will bring coffee and cookies, and would you like to come on that beach that I brought a table, the table of our house, we brought a table. And I asked them to go around. They naturally were black, I didn't say look like a widow, but they looked like widows, naturally. One with an old costume, by the way. And I said, you mind just going around? And none of them asked me why. I was impressed. I thought they would say what I was doing. And I asked them to do it. And they do it very peacefully. And I understood while they were doing, I understood what I had in mind.
It was like a procession.
Yes, but, I didn't say come and make a procession, but it made itself. And you don't know if it's a table, it's a coffin, or it's a church something, or the burial. But they did it naturally, turning around like this. And Eric Wautier again, that was 35 minutes, came, and we approached them, and they go like this, they're very peaceful. And that little lady goes away, the last one alone. And so I'm touched because I organized it, but in a way, they did that. It became what it is. And the experience of proposing that to 14 plus, 25 people in the same room, and then it moves and they come in and out. Well, it was exposed at the Fondation Cartier for five months. So people came, and some people come back, and some people said that they cried because they thought they had not been enough careful to their grandmother. Or one man cried and came to me and said, oh my God, I didn't understand what my mother was going through. And she was a widow. Or other people just had the experience of listening to different people. They have nothing very important to say. Missing the other, the silence, the absence, and some personal little remarks. But it's just plain widows in a way.
Well, it's incredibly poignant, and also the experience of listening on headphones is so intimate. Watching a film collectively with a big audience, it's a different type of experience, and you get a little bit deeper.
But it's different. That's why when people say, why do you stop making films to do this? Well, I'm learning something from the ability to use the film as a 35 millimeter video, photos, silence, other way of, and other physical thing, the space is used in a different way. So that's why I love to do that.
Does it feel almost liberating in a way to be able to kind of expand your horizon and create something entirely new, or push a project that you've...
It gives me some, with that word spring.
Something to spring from,
yeah. Yes,
little energy.
I'm looking for other things. I have other ideas and other installations. Like the one you show a picture at one point was an image of the sea, like a calm image of the sea. That you don't see it because it's here. But this is a picture in the background. Then from the ceiling...
Can we get that picture
No,
up?
but it's a picture, so I don't know if we can find it.
Was it a still?
And then from the ceiling, there is a projection of the continuation of the photo. The photography becomes film, and then becomes sand. because I'm very interested in the representation. You know, we know what is the sea, we know what is the sand, but how do we represent the sea? With a still image, with movement, or with just the actual sand? So this is what I'm investigating. And when I did Shack, which is now at the LACMA, again, how do I feel that a film, how can I be inside the real film? So I use it as a shack, I'm inside, and I can say, I'm inside Lions, Love and Lies. But what does that mean? So we use the imaginary, the imagination, the concept, and the reality. That's what I love to put together and create something. So people go there and they enjoy to see that shack. It has a door. You can sit on the cans. But you see through, and what is cinema if not just light going through images? Now, what is funny that when you go in the shack, then you can do this and say, oh, this is 1 second. You know.
Right, you see the 24 frame. Yeah.
You go and look at the walls.
Let's see, can we show some of the images from the LACMA installation?
We have not filmed them yet. Did you?
We have some stills, yes, we do. But the idea of the texture is an element that you bring, whether it's 700 tons of potatoes on the floor or sand or the actual film elements. There's really a very tactile.
You are absolutely right. Something real connects me to why I want to find images when I know there is something real. Here you see through. Now, this is interesting because in the back, through the films, you see the collage on the wall that we should not see if it's just a shack.
But it changes
Julia, my
as the
assistant,
light.
Julia Fabry, who is here. Thank you, Julia. She
helped
came
install
3 weeks ahead because it takes a certain time to organize. And she was very careful that at the height of the eyes, we would have close-up of Viva, close-up of Rado, so that when you look around, you have scenes that you can recognize.
Well, and as the time of day changes, the light changes, and there's all kinds of reflections on the floor, and you can make up the individual frames, and there's this very subtle shift of color and rhythmic patterns, and it's beautiful.
That's so interesting that we go with the weather, we go with the time of the day, and when here they close very early, the museums. By the way, at 5, I was so surprised, but. Well, that's the way it is. But in France, it closes at 7. And you could feel the day fading out, that you didn't see the same. Then the background was black. I like everything which deals with the passing of the time. Not only Clo from 5 to 7, but other things in which you capture that it's like understanding what is the time during the time of what we do. And the beginning of the series I did, called From Here to There, each episode starts. Do you have that a tree? You have that a tree, no?
We have a couple of clips from that.
No, because when I noticed the tree in my courtyard.
I don't think we have that clip.
You have?
No.
You don't? I brought it, the DVD of. Anyway, so I was filming the tree. We cut it, and it grew so fast. And while I'm doing these episodes, it took me 1 year or more, filming and then editing. And something is happening here. And meanwhile, the tree who had been cut, he reconstructed his leaves.
Can you get it?
Maybe I did.
Yeah, perfect.
He reconstructed his feuillage, his leaves, in 3 months, when I was taking so much time to film. So I'm not as fast as nature.
Well, essentially, the whole series starts that you're cutting the tree down because it's blossoming everywhere, and it's cut down to its base. There's no shoots left, and 3 months later, it's regenerated itself, and it's growing.
But it's a theme I love. It's like the potatoes, But they are not sold because they're not the good right shape. They are forgotten because they're old. They become green. They cannot be eaten. They are no longer good for eating. So they are abandoned. And while that energy of nature is in there, they start to grow again, which I found at some point an allegory of me.
It's right, regenerative, right. You have a new career. Well,
I don't feel exactly like an old potato, but, but I felt it was interesting to see that starting my career of visual artist so late, it's like the potatoes in a way.
well, your energy is contagious too, in terms of just being with you and also experiencing the work. You get to experience Lion's Love in an entirely different way. And when you entered the space for the first time, do you find that did you notice other things about the film? Did you connect with it in a new way, or when you were looking at the actual strips?
I discover myself that by using the physical film in another way, like reinventing what it could be, it's another feeling of what is a film. Because look, you see through the ceiling, through the roof, you see the light. What is cinema? Not something else than this. You make an image and you send the light, and that makes a screen. So it's
not in the DCP, but in the film shack, yes.
Yeah, but it's reinventing what we have known on a certain category, and that can be reinvented, which I love a lot. I also did another experience. In Vagabond, there is a very violent scene in which Mona, Sandrine Bonner, comes in a village where they attack her because they have a special game. And she runs away. These men have costume, they are frightening, and try to grab her. And from that very violent scene, that lasts like 1 minute, I grabbed some images, and taking one image of a violent scene and looking at it becomes, I don't know, a photo of something very abstract. You don't know what it is about, you don't remember the film, and it's another view, it's another life coming out of the film. So it's like each film, from the screenplay to the shooting, to the screening, to the very impressive impression we have when we go in a festival or here. I mean, it's a full house. I'm very touched. I'm very happy because we're here to show films to people. So when people are there, that's the meaning of making films and images. But again, it can be recreated, all the time. It's recycling, I would say, recycling my ideas, the actual film, the impression I have, trying not to sleep in things that we decide this is this. Because we can reconsider, is that word?
Yeah.
Reconsider ideas, opinions also, and the way we feel about people.
Well, I mean, after having seen Lion's Love, 10 plus years ago, and then seeing it again last week, and also experiencing the film shack and being there and actually seeing so many of these images that, you just have a memory of, it really brings it back in a very, very poignant way, but also in a time.
And funny. Some people, when we show Lion's Love, they laughed all the way through.
Well,
those years were utopic, and beautiful and ridiculous also. And I like the idea that we can capture all that with tenderness, but it was sometimes ridiculous.
Well, and also so poignant too, because it was such a political statement back then, and now we're in a similar situation that is really just a combustible political time in America, and it was really a very powerful thing to experience. So Agnes, do we have time to show the Chris marker, or would you like to take some questions from the...
Maybe the audience wants to raise questions.
Should we take a few questions, and then if we have time, maybe we can show the Chris marker clip before we finish.
I guess you know Chris Marker films, do you? La Jetée?
We do, but I think there's so many, people
This is applaud for Chris Marker. I love it.
Well, he was such an important artist, and we know how close that you were to him, but also I think in the States that people are only aware of just a few of his films, and he did such a job of kind of being very secretive about his work, and only recently...
And investigating the new ways, internet...
Second Life and avatars and...
Rome, CD-ROM, and, he was, and he died last year on his 91st birthday.
On his birthday.
91?
Yeah. 91.
And he has been working all the time, investigating new things. Well, Let's show the clip because you will love.
Yeah, let's show the clip. And then we'll take a few questions from the audience.
It's not a clip, it's a visit.
It's a,
he
it's a
didn't
short
want anybody to film him or to photograph him for 30 years. Nobody could take a picture of him. He allowed me to film his studio, not really not really him, but his studio.
Guillaume en Égypte est là, tranquille, près de nous. Quand il ne se balade pas dans la rue, il rentre chez lui. Il est le porte-parole du cinéaste Chris Marker qui pousse la discrétion jusqu'au secret. Le chat orange représente celui qui veut planquer son visage. Le désordre de son atelier est magnifique. Ce déballage indescriptible, ce sont ses sources d'inspiration, les choses qu'il accumule et ses outils pour fabriquer des films documentaires qu'il nous écrit de pays lointains ou dans la proximité des grévistes et des manifestants. Il y a des photographies de femmes avec une touche de mystère ou sublimées par un écho. Il a publié des livres. Il a aussi réalisé des films de fiction beaux et inclassables comme la fameuse Jetée et Level 5. Voici la face cachée du travail de Marker, les fils secrets du labyrinthe de son œuvre. Chris a filmé des chats perchés et des cinéastes qu'il affectionne, Tarkovsky, Medvedkin et Kurosawa quand il tournait Rani. Il est devenu ami du compositeur Takemitsu. À part les chats, japonais ou pas, il y a un hibou bavard et des chouettes. La chouette, fondatrice du savoir dont Chris nous transmet l'héritage. Quant aux informations, elles arrivent de partout.
C'est quelle station, ça?
Ça, c'est l'Al Jazeera anglais qui est de loin la meilleure chaîne d'information permanente. Ils ont tout piqué à CNN, mais en mieux.
Et pourquoi tu en voulais deux? En noir et blanc et en couleur?
Ça, c'est un problème. Je ne sais pas pourquoi la couleur ne passe plus sur mon moniteur.
Chris les récolte et les a pour un temps commentés en dessins et collages pour une revue du web, Poptronics. Ou plus directement.
Le t-shirt.
C'est moi qui l'ai fait.
Oui, ça je sais.
Je l'ai mis en vente, on l'a vendu et tous les bénéfices ont été à la campagne d'Obama. Donc j'ai participé.
On se souvient de l'élan de joie quand Obama est devenu président. Mais Chris me montre d'horribles images que les ennemis d'Obama ont fait circuler.
Tous les républicains qui ont dit que tous les armes étaient possibles, ils ont fait toute une série de trucs sur le thème Obama communiste dangereux. Pour l'enterrer en Staline, il faut le faire. Tous les grands tyrans du XXIe siècle, et Obama qui conclut la série.
Il collecte aussi des archives historiques.
Et alors ça, c'était quand j'étais encore dans l'armée américaine et qu'on recevait chaque semaine des exemplaires un peu plus petits, tu vois, réduits. Et ça, c'était le tout premier de la série, c'était la fin de la guerre au Japon. Simplement, ils ont changé le système, là c'était vraiment élémentaire, alors que là, c'est exactement le même, tu vois, qui replace à chaque fois. Bon. Et le dernier, la semaine dernière.
Mais c'est les vrais.
Bah, évidemment, c'est les vrais. Pourquoi tu crois que toujours tout est faux ici?
C'est pas faux, mais c'est que Marker a une double vie. Ou plutôt, il existe ailleurs, de façon virtuelle, dans Second Life, sur un archipel créé par Max Moswitzer, dit Mos Max Axe. C'est un lieu dit l'ouvroir. Saluons les avatars de Max et de Chris. Le grand type au pull blanc, c'est Chris. Il parle avec une chouette. Il danse avec son double. je suis entrée dans la danse, d'autant que dans cet archipel virtuel, il y a un pavillon, inventé par Lucien Boukmitz, où trône mon oncle Yanko, qui était peintre.
La peinture, au fond, rivalise avec la splendeur de l'oiseau et l'opulence de la mer ou de tout paysage, mais les surpasse. Oh, que je voudrais que entre ce qu'on conçoit et ce qu'on exécute, il y a tellement, il y a la tragique différence. C'est comme de la coupe aux lèvres, il y a l'amertume, l'ombre tombe.
Un petit tour dans le musée imaginaire dédié à Barker. Oh, c'est gigantesque, un peu effrayant. Je tombe dans un trou, c'est vertigineux. Je vais demander à Guillaume de me jouer un peu de piano, ça me remontera. La fugue du chat de Scarlatti.
Quand vraiment Guillaume est très fatigué, il se relaxe avec le sofa-chat. Et alors quand il a besoin de vraiment se relaxer, alors là il se met complètement à plat ventre sur le chat-sofa et il se sent bien que tu peux pas savoir.
À mon tour de tâter du chat-sofa. Et puis comme souvent, je vais regarder la mer.
Mais comment tu fais?
Moi,
je suis impressionnée.
Ma pagaille, fait que tu vas me déshonorer au lieu de l'univers.
Je ne vais pas te déshonorer, je trouve que c'est magnifique d'être au milieu de ce qu'on fait. Mais qui a fait ça avec le chat?
Je branlais tous les textes de tous mes films, j'ai tout Apollinaire, j'ai des extraits d'Aragon, j'ai les Coréennes, bien entendu, les Mémoires d'Outre-Tombe en intégrale, Don Quichotte, Sandrard, Bulgakov, Baudelaire.
Et qui les a rentrés?
Moi, comme je viens de te montrer là. Laissez déposer. Et après, avec ce système-là, tu les transfères ici. Tu sais, le truc éternel, quels sont les 10 livres que vous emmèneriez sur une île déserte? Tout le monde disait la Bible, Don Quichotte, et en fait les gens se partaient avec San Antonio. Maintenant, ça n'a plus aucun sens, parce que tu peux emmener toute ta bibliothèque là-dedans. Et je veux dire, lire tout un livre, ça peut-être beaucoup, mais quand tu fais la queue, chose que je déteste au monde, par exemple, eh ben, tu te mets à lire des poèmes d'Apollinaire, et d'un seul coup, tu es déjà à la caisse, tu t'en es même pas aperçu, et pour un peu, tu dis « Excusez-moi, madame, j'ai pas fini mon poème ».
C'est une caisse, elle est belle.
C'est plutôt belle, hein. Voilà, donc je l'ai photographiée comme ça, puis il y en a une autre comme ça.
C'est toujours avec les lunettes, ça?
Non, c'était avant les lunettes, c'est encore avec la petite caméra là. J'ai fait 2 beaux tirages, sur un superbe papier comme ça. Je les ai mis dans une enveloppe et je les ai laissés dans une caisse fermée. Et je suis parti. Donc quelqu'un l'aura trouvé, regarde l'enveloppe, ça se dit, c'est toi, c'est moi. Et jamais de sa vie, elle ne saura qui a fait ces photos, qui sont sûrement pas les plus moches qu'on ait fait d'elle.
La caisse à la FNAC?
Oui, bah, bien sûr.
Là où tu avais fait les photos?
Bah, bien sûr.
Et alors?
Et jamais de sa vie, elle ne saura d'où c'est tombé. Je trouve que c'est plutôt rigolo, non?
Magnifique, tu veux dire. Il y a une photo là, oui. Il faut que je la retrouve.
Thank you for letting me show that. It's such an intimate portrait and a window into his process. It's really fascinating. Thank you for letting us show that.
Yes, sure.
Maybe we could take a couple of questions.
I didn't think I knew it was, everybody has to die, but when I filmed it, I did not understand how much it would become precious when we know it's the only thing we have as a testimony of his studio.
And did you make it after he passed away?
Sure not, she's still speaking.
No, I meant that you made the...
No, I made the film. He saw it, because he saw it, he liked it very much, and I added the 2 or 3 minutes that are at the end. You know, there is a black in between. No, he saw it. He liked it. He said so. You know, it's interesting because, you know, it's so various, you know, cinema, photo, sound. There is so much that can be made. And from the total imaginary to testimony and to reality that we want to touch or share. I think we have wonderful tools, what I would say.
Well, and Chris certainly experimented with all the tools that were at his fingertips, you know, in terms of new technologies and Second Life. And
not only that, but did you notice, well, I guess you noticed that I came into the Second Life and I didn't know how to do it. And it's my neighbor who was doing art decorative, spent a year at CalArts. And that's how she learned to do difficult things. And she's the one who made me enter in the second world of Chris.
Was she your avatar?
No, she came to do just my little thing. I had an editor, but I say, you have to invent me too. And I don't know if it works, but like the dance is ready-made, you know, so you have to put the person in the costume and the dancers is done. I don't know. I'm so glad to be there.
Dancing with Chris.
Voila. Do we think you? Well, we could say things, but you may have questions, or you have.
Yeah. Well, no. Let's take. We have time for 1 or 2 more questions.
As the sound man for Uncle Yanko, I wanted to thank you for being here,
Agnès.
Agnès. It's a great pleasure to see you again, and
He's the
welcome
sound
to
man
Los
for Uncle
Angeles.
Yanko.
I don't see
Paul
that.
Oppenheim.
Oh, Paul. Is that Paul?
Yeah.
You have been working. Yes. Oh, bravo. We tried to find, and tomorrow I go to Berkeley, and we try to find people who have been working on Uncle Yanko and Black Panthers. We send mails and telephones, so I thought I would see you tomorrow.
I'll try and be there.
Good.
Well, it's a real testimony to see all of these friends and colleagues and people that you worked with on these films from the 1960s and early 1980s. I mean, they're really kind of an extended family, and everybody has come out to so many of the screenings and has spent time with you, and it's really kind of a very warm...
But because I'm grateful to them to have been helping me when I needed them, because nobody can, well, sometimes you can film something alone. At Marquet, I was totally alone with my little camera. It's not well done, but it's done. But when you can, and you have technician, you know, and good people for the camera and the sound and helpers, you know, it's important.
Yeah, and these are relationships that you've...
Well, you don't always keep them, but if each opportunity you have to see them, then it reminds me how good it was to... Well, I love to make films, you know, when in the time of shooting is so exciting. And the second time that I love is editing. Endless editing, I love that.
Do we have another question?
If not, we can screen something. You know.
I think we have time for one more question, and then
well, then what is it? We have cops outside at 4?
We can go on if you would like to show something else. But let's take a few questions.
I just have a question about editing. So endless editing. How many times do you re-edit a sequence in a different way? In general, or maybe a good example.
Like the beaches of Agnès. it took me 1 year editing with 2 editors, because it was so difficult to tell something which would be memories of my life, but showing portraits of people I've met, I've loved, or I encountered. And, you know, I had section like my youth, when I was adolescent, etc. But even though I had to go away, you know, to have like side little story coming in and out, and I didn't want to end like ending, but still, it's difficult because it's always for me like a collage, and it works, but it could work differently, so you start again. And then I do the narration, I record the narration, I put it on, it doesn't work. So it doesn't work because of the words or the editing. So I change both, I redo another narration, try it again, and etc. It is interesting because it builds itself, you know, like something. I have to forget the years or the months of working. We should not even speak about that because the aim is that it is fluid and you don't have to feel how she did that or that. So I love the time of editing, but in a way you should not even know about it.
That's the hardest thing to do, is make it feel effortless and seamless.
Yes.
Could you talk about how it has changed when you film cities since you made your film Daguerreotypes in 1967? Obviously, Paris has changed. Other cities have changed also. What do these changes mean for you as a photographer and a filmmaker?
Well, I'm always surprised. Not that much. When I did Daguerreotypes in my street was 1975. Can you imagine? What was different is the people. Because in those years, all the shopkeepers were couples. And the man would do the good job and she would be helping. Like it would be the butcher and she would be doing the cashier. It would be the tailleur.
The tailor.
And she would finish the... in the bakery, he would bake the bread and she would sell the bread. There were couples like that. They had to all come from the country to work in Paris. So the population was very specifically coming from a part of the France that leads you to Gare Montparnasse. Now what happened is that 20 years after, 50 years after, there are totally different people. We still have shops, but some are employés, what do you say? They're paid to do it, you know.
They're employees.
Employees of somebody who owns the shop. Or only one that I knew is still in the shop where he was working. It's more organized, you know. It's just they pay somebody to be there than another person. I don't find these couple who are working together, which was the main impression I had. But the shops are still there. They're just different. Now some have disappeared, and the hairdresser who had in his shop a little wall in the middle, the side for men and the side for women, you know, which no longer exists. You know, now it's a unisex hairdo.
But how, even coming back to Los Angeles on a regular basis, how does that experience?
Certainly, the Los Angeles of 68, 69, well, I don't know where it is, but I love the city because the specific architecture, these low houses and then buildings, the towers and then low houses, and the huge avenue. You know, I said yesterday, I love to just drive Pico from the ocean to downtown, but I could say Venice Boulevard also makes my day. And I love what is so many cities in one city.
It's true.
And so different people. I remember the first time I started to go East LA, that was everybody had said you cannot go there, it's dangerous, you know, whatever. And discovering like a Chicano world, including the murals they were doing, all the gang situation, how you had to approach them, how they are proud of what they do, you know. And then I remember going to Watts, discovering things. So I really went around to even expand the fact that it's like different cities, different mentalities, not the same kind of people. And you go Watts to Bel Air, you have like a shock of culture, you know, or shock of whatever it is. And Bel Air, it's totally closed and closed and closed. And, you know, when I was there, they murdered Sharon Tate, I remember that. It was a violent shock, you know. And then you had this group, you know, I remember going to the, what was Forum, was a huge place, listen to the Doors concert, you know, and other concert.
On Sunset Strip?
Sit on the strip, but this huge open thing. And
The Hollywood Bowl?
Oh, also, that's another thing. No, when I saw the Doors, I think it's at the Forum.
The Forum.
Yeah, but
was the
you know, we were discovering all this group, the music, and McLuhan, you know, the medium is the message, all different things. And women's studies, we had never seen that in France. And at UCLA, they had a department of women's studies, and we have this feminist theorician, you know, discussing very strongly in 67, 68. So all this was discoveries, you know, for us. And obviously, it has changed a lot because women's studies are everywhere, and it doesn't change so much what the situation is.
But did you find when you came back to LA this trip, were there things that you felt when you came back to Los Angeles this time, are there things that you've noticed that you feel that the city has changed in a distinctive way?
Well, you know, most of them have been erased or painted in white, and there are new ones coming. Again, it's evolutionist all the time. No, I think the basic structure of Los Angeles has not changed. The very rich, very, very rich. I was in a gala last night to raise money for the museum, and for what I understand, some seats were $50,000, you know. And if people can afford that, and to give it to museum, bravo, you know, because American is a country where people are responsible of their museum, their culture, which is incredibly interesting for us, because we're used to, you know, state museum, country museum, department museum, and here, you know, poor people or less poor people or rich people, they build themselves, you know. I don't know who paid the Getty, maybe the Getty family, but it's an incredible place. And it's not country money, state money. So I'm very admiring of how the money is spent, but the poverty is worse than ever. And homeless people are much more than before. So, well, it's everywhere the same, you know. It's not only a crisis, economic crisis, it's a human crisis everywhere. And all this incredible problem of migrant, is that a word?
Yeah, immigrants.
Migrants. Well, I knew the problem from Mexican, the backpack, how do you call that, the wet backpack? The wet back? Which is the name they gave to the Mexican coming through? Wetback?
Yeah.
And it's a big...
It's not
no, it's not the word?
It is a word, but it's not a very complimentary word. But yes, there's a lot of migration, immigration.
But the wall, you know, the wall that they did between Mexico and
United States,
California, and it's everywhere in the world now. And now all these people coming from incredible, like Ethiopia, and then arriving in the island of Lampedusa near Italy. I mean, the world of Africa moving from one place to another because they're killed. The world is so cruel, even more than before for what I feel. But the cities are there, the people are there, and the work is, people work. And as artists, you know, we have to go on, whatever it is, because in our way we can be witnesses or not, or be part of it. But I feel like I'm an apple tree, I have to do apples, you know.
Well, maybe we should end on that note. It's a beautiful note, and I just wanted to take a moment to acknowledge a few people who helped: Alison Cosberg and Sue Kang and Michelle Fahmy and John Keefe, and certainly part of your team,
yes,
Rosalie,
and I would acknowledge my
Jules.
daughter Rosalie Varda, who's helping me all the way through, Julia Fabry, who is here, and some people I think are in the room who helped me. Lisa Bloch, if she's there, was on the Murmure. Lynn Littman was my assistant on Lions, Love and Lies. Alain René did the research with me to find the murals. Paul Oppenheim is here. Maybe other people have worked with or had the pleasure to work with and have been helping. My friend Patricia Knopp, who is an artist and helped me each time I come. I love to be at her place, and maybe other people. I don't know.
But the big thanks to you, Agnès. It's been a real pleasure and an honor. Merci beaucoup.
Merci, Rina.
Thank you very much.